They never saw him coming. They never thought he'd make it. To them, he was just another quiet man in the corner, too soft, too silent, too invisible to matter. But what they didn't know was that silence can be the loudest sound in the world when it belongs to someone who's building himself in it. He used to walk alone, not because he hated people, but because he was tired of being misunderstood. He had no interest in explaining his dreams to those who laughed at small beginnings. He didn't want pity, didn't need validation. All he wanted was time. Time to build, time to rise, time to become the man they'd never believe he could be. There were nights he couldn't sleep. The weight of failure pressed against his chest like a stone. He remembered every insult, every moment someone doubted him, every whisper that told him he'd never be good enough. And yet, instead of breaking down, he let those words carve something inside him. Pain became his architect. Silence became his weapon. He stopped talking about what he'd do someday. He stopped telling people his plans, because he learned that the loudest ones are often the emptiest. He chose to disappear, not out of fear, but out of focus. He went ghost. While everyone else was showing off, he was showing up. To the grind, to the pain, to the endless nights of effort no one applauded. He started waking up before the sun. That early morning darkness became his sanctuary. No noise, no distractions, no comparisons. Just him, his thoughts, and that fire that wouldn't die. The kind of fire that's not seen, but felt. The kind that burns quietly and consumes everything weak inside you. He built himself piece by piece. Discipline became his language, consistency his armor. Every day he did the things no one noticed, the small things that no one claps for. While others were busy chasing attention, he was mastering the art of patience. They laughed at him. They said he was wasting his time. Why don't you chill? Why are you always so serious? They'd ask. But they didn't understand. He wasn't chasing success. He was becoming it. He was teaching himself the kind of strength that doesn't need to shout to be known. He stopped looking for respect, because he realized real respect isn't given. It's earned in silence, through effort, through endurance, through the lonely hours where no one's watching. There was a time he used to crave recognition. He wanted people to see how hard he worked, how much he sacrificed. But then he learned, the real ones don't announce their worth, they prove it through results. So he stayed quiet. He let the world underestimate him. He let them think he'd lost. Because he knew they'd only recognize him when the results spoke. And when they did, they wouldn't be able to ignore him anymore. You see, every man has two choices when he's disrespected. Either he complains and demands validation, or he stays silent and turns that pain into power. He chose the second one. He stopped chasing apologies and started chasing growth. He stopped reacting emotionally and started responding strategically. Every, "You're not good enough," became fuel. Every, "You'll never make it," became motivation. He didn't argue anymore. He evolved, and slowly, without realizing it, that silence transformed him. His body changed. His habits changed. His energy changed. There was something different about him now. Not loud, not flashy, but powerful. The kind of quiet confidence that doesn't need to be explained. People started to notice, not because he said something, but because they could feel something. The same ones who once mocked his silence now felt uneasy around him, because he didn't react anymore. He didn't seek approval. He didn't need them. That's what true respect is, when your energy demands what your words never ask for. He realized life isn't about proving others wrong. It's about proving yourself right. Respect isn't won through noise. It's earned through quiet mastery of your own life. He stopped scrolling through other people's success. He stopped comparing timelines. He focused so hard on his path that the world started to revolve around his discipline. And one day, when he walked back into the same rooms that once belittled him, the silence shifted. No one laughed. No one whispered, because his results spoke before he did. He didn't need to say a word. The way he carried himself, the stillness in his eyes, the calm in his presence, that was enough. He didn't beg for respect, he became it. And that's when it hit him. Silence was never weakness. It was control. It was power. It was proof that a man who can master himself doesn't need to announce anything. His life becomes his statement. His results become his voice. And in a world obsessed with attention, that's what made him unforgettable. He started to move differently, not in arrogance, but in awareness. Every step he took now had purpose. Every action had intention. The man who once reacted to every insult now simply observed. He had learned the art of detachment, not from life, but from noise. The silence that once felt heavy was now sacred. He began to understand that the world doesn't owe you understanding. People only respect what they can measure. And that's why he stopped speaking about what he was building. He realized that when you start talking too soon, you drain the energy meant for your work. So he kept his circle small. Days turned into months. The grind became his companion. While others were looking for shortcuts, he was mastering the long road. The one few have the courage to walk. He trained his mind to stay calm in chaos, to endure when things made no sense. Because deep down, he knew, a man's real power lies in how much he can suffer in silence without losing focus. The transformation wasn't loud, it wasn't glamorous. It was quiet, lonely, brutal. But every moment of discipline carved something unbreakable inside him. Every sacrifice became a brick in the foundation of a stronger man. He started journaling his thoughts, not for the world, for himself. Writing down his goals, his mistakes, his fears. He wanted to face every weakness with honesty. That's what most people run from, their reflection. But he confronted it day after day, until the man in the mirror stopped doubting and started believing. He stopped wasting time proving his worth to those who didn't care. He started investing that time in himself. Every morning he read, trained, learned, improved. He built his mind before he built his success. Because he understood, the outer world only changes when the inner one does first. He became obsessed with progress. Not perfection, just progress. He didn't need results overnight. He was fine being invisible for years if that's what it took. Because real kings are crowned in silence, long before the world knows their name. There were nights when his body ached, his mind screamed for rest, and doubt crept in like poison. Why are you doing all this? No one even sees you. But then, he'd remind himself, I'm not doing this for them. I'm doing this for me. That's when the shift happened. He stopped living for validation and started living for transformation. And once a man hits that point, he becomes unstoppable. He learned that silence isn't the absence of noise, it's the presence of focus. It's the place where the weak break and the strong are born. His mornings became rituals of war. The alarm at 4 a.m., the cold water on his face, the journal, the workout, the discipline that demanded everything, even when motivation didn't show up. That's how he turned pain into purpose. He used to think success was about doing big things, but now he knew it's about doing small things with big consistency. The little wins, the daily effort, the quiet choices that build empires behind closed doors. His transformation wasn't just physical, it was spiritual, emotional. He learned to let go of ego. He learned to forgive, not for others, but for peace. He learned that not everyone deserves a response, not every insult deserves attention, and not every battle deserves to be fought. He learned to save his energy for the war that mattered, the war within. Because every man fights that silent battle, between who he was and who he's meant to be, between comfort and growth, between excuses and excellence. He chose growth every single time, and slowly he began to rise. His posture changed. His voice became deeper, calmer, more grounded. He no longer rushed to prove a point. He didn't chase. He attracted. Because his energy now carried the quiet confidence of someone who knows he's built something real. People started asking questions. What happened to you? You've changed. You seem different. And he'd just smile. Because they'd never understand that the man they were seeing now was built in the moments no one saw. The discipline, the pain, the sacrifices, the heartbreaks that molded his patience, the failures that sharpened his instincts. They saw the results, but not the rebuilding. They saw the outcome, but not the process. He'd look around and realize, the same people who once overlooked him were now studying his every move. The same ones who doubted him now whispered his name with respect. But he didn't let it get to his head, because he remembered the silence, the struggle, the grind that made him who he was. Respect was never the goal, mastery was. He learned something powerful: when you stop begging for respect and start becoming someone worthy of it, life rewards you in ways words never could. His results were now louder than any insult he ever faced. His actions were now the proof of everything he once tried to explain, and that's when it hit him. The silence that once felt like punishment was actually protection. It protected him from distraction, from noise, from the world's empty opinions. It gave him space to build his truth. Now his life spoke volumes. His aura demanded respect, and he didn't need to say a word. Because when a man learns to control his emotions, discipline his habits, and move with purpose, he doesn't need to scream for recognition. The world recognizes him on its own, and deep down, he smiled, because the journey that once broke him had become the very reason he was unshakable. He didn't beg for respect. He built himself until he became it. And then one morning, he woke up, and something felt different. The air was still, the noise was gone, but his soul was roaring. He stood in front of the mirror, same reflection, but not the same man. Because this time, he saw peace in his eyes, not pride, not arrogance. Just the calmness that comes when you finally stop chasing validation and start living your truth. He remembered all the nights he felt like quitting, all the mornings when he woke up tired, lost, empty, but still got up. He remembered when no one believed in him, when people laughed, ignored, doubted. But he also remembered one more thing. He never stopped believing in himself. That belief became his fire. That silence became his weapon. That patience became his strength. And now, he was standing in the very place where people once told him he'd never make it. But this time, he didn't say a word. He just smiled, because his results were speaking, louder than every insult, louder than every doubt, louder than every lie ever told about him. He had proven something powerful, that the most dangerous man is the one who doesn't announce his every move. He just moves. The one who doesn't need attention to stay consistent. The one who understands that greatness grows in silence. Because the truth is, bro, the world doesn't clap for you when you start. They watch in silence. They wait for you to fail. But if you keep showing up, if you keep grinding when no one believes, if you keep your head down long enough, one day, they'll have no choice but to respect what you've become. That's what he learned. You don't demand respect, you build it. You don't chase attention, you earn it. And when you do, your silence becomes louder than every noise around you. He realized that the real war was never with others. It was always within himself. The war between who he was and who he was destined to be. And every time he chose discipline over doubt, every time he chose focus over noise, every time he walked away from things that didn't align with his purpose, he won another silent battle. Until one day, those little invisible victories became the foundation of his unshakable strength. And now, his life had become a message, not spoken in words, but written in results. That's the kind of power silence gives you. It doesn't make you weak. It makes you undeniable. Because the loudest man in the room often has nothing real to say, but the quiet one, the one who's been through pain, doubt, and loss, he's the one whose presence speaks before his mouth does. And that's who he became, the man whose silence carried more power than the world's noise, the man whose respect wasn't given, it was earned. And maybe right now, as you're listening to this, you're in that same silent season. You're not getting credit. You're not being seen. You're grinding while everyone else is sleeping. You're rebuilding yourself in the dark, alone. But listen carefully. This silence you're in, it's not punishment. It's preparation. It's molding you into something the world won't be ready for. So don't rush it. Don't try to prove anything yet. Let them underestimate you. Let them think you've fallen off. Because one day, your results will walk into every room that your words never could. The day will come when they'll look at you and wonder how you did it. They'll wonder where you found the strength. And you'll smile. Not because you want revenge, but because you finally understand. You never needed their approval to rise. You just needed time, discipline, and silence. And when your time comes, when your work finally pays off, you won't have to announce it. You won't have to explain anything, because your life, your results, your peace, will speak louder than any noise ever could. So stay quiet, stay focused, stay dangerous. The world may not see your grind now, but one day they'll see why you disappeared. And when they do, they'll realize it. He didn't beg for respect. He built himself until he became it.